Good morning, secured entrepreneurs. It is Money Monday, and Miss Aurorah is almost ready to face this day. I'm getting ready, y'all. Okay, look at this mug that Attorney Horton sent to Miss Aurorah. It says, "You can't fix stupid, but we can give it a court date." Okay, okay. Now, everybody chimed in on that whole Donald Trump indictment in the state of New York. There were so many interesting comments. And just about everybody has something to say about this thing going on with Donald Trump, right?
A president or ex-president finally went to prison, went to jail. And this bitch was impeached twice. Finally got locked up. And I'm mad that he turned himself in. I wanted that bitch to get a Bronco. And say, bitch, come get me. I'm watching TV like, give me something, give me something, give me something. The new Bronco, nice as a motherfucker, too. I want that bitch to ride out. But I don't even know if y'all know what the fuck Trump got locked up for. Do y'all realize Trump got locked up because he bought some pussy and tried to write it off on his taxes?
So now in this video, Mr. Aurorah is going to answer your questions about the taxes. Okay? Because for those of you who are not secured entrepreneurs, you really do not know what is really going on. So when you heard the district attorney say, you know, there was some information that was found where there was an intention to defraud taxing authorities or tax authorities, she said something like that. You all started emailing saying, what is it that he is talking about, seeing as this is an indictment that has been brought forth from the state of New York. Okay, now there's an article that we're going to get into in this video. It was written in January of this year, and it appeared in the New Yorker. Okay, and it's how to make Trump and the wealthy pay their taxes. Now remember that Miss Aurorah shared this clip with you.
How do you tax a rich man? Firstly, let me tell you something about myself and most rich people. We don't own anything. There may be a trust fund in Ecuador that owns a company in Singapore that might own a yacht that I can borrow. I don't own shit. So that's the first thing. The second thing, you have all these different jurisdictions around the world. It's extremely complicated. How are you going to tax a rich guy? He has houses here, houses there, company here, company there, all the companies making a loss. Does Starbucks pay tax? No, Starbucks supposedly doesn't make money. Supposedly Uber's never made profit. An app on the phone with millions of cars around the world and people working endless hours for them and them getting a cut of it to run an app. Supposedly they never made profit, never paid a penny tax. Funny how that works. You can't tax the rich. It's too complicated. You can't tax the rich. It doesn't work. All you're going to do is just drive them into other countries. If England right now today were to announce a huge tax on the rich people would just go, oh cool, I'll base my company out of Belize. 2 pieces of paper, fuck you.
All right, and those of us in the secured entrepreneur movement understand how to move and operate in commerce properly because we are all about security, anonymity, profits, right? Okay, so let's get into it. For those of you who do not know who I am Miss Aurorah Dey, and this is the Secured Entrepreneur Movement. All right, now, secured entrepreneurs, here is the article. How to make Trump and the wealthy pay their taxes. 3 core reforms would make the U.S. system eminently fairer for all Americans. I don't know how true that is, secured entrepreneurs. I don't know how true that is. This is written by John Cassidy back on January the 6th, 2023, okay? So he says, since a Democratic-controlled House Ways and Means Committee released 5 years of Donald Trump's tax returns, the Republicans' farcical struggle to elect a new Speaker of the House has distracted attention from 2 urgent questions that the contents of the returns raise. How can we remodel the U.S. tax system to prevent Trump and other wealthy tax cheats, calling them tax cheats now let's get into this, from continuing to make a mockery of it? And going beyond the individual case, egregious as it is, How can we use what we have learned to make the tax system fairer? Mr. Cassidy is already, there's some hater juice going on here already. Okay. Because he points out that the system, there's an issue with the system. Okay. And he's basically stating that Trump and other wealthy people are utilizing this system because it has to be fairer. So you can't then call them a cheat if they are utilizing the system. Okay, so all right. After reviewing 5 years of Trump's returns and speaking with independent tax experts, I am convinced that there are 3 imperatives. First, we need to strengthen the Internal Revenue Service so that it has the capacity to hold accountable serial tax avoiders. Okay, let's stop right here. What does Ms. Aurorah always tell the secured entrepreneurs? You can legally avoid taxation because they have the system in place, as Mr. Cassidy is pointing out here, but you cannot legally evade tax. Okay? You cannot legally evade taxation. If you are creating taxable events, yes, you must pay the tax. Hello. Okay? So he's saying, first, we need to strengthen the Internal Revenue Service so that it has the capacity to hold accountable serial tax avoiders like Trump and to deter would-be imitators. So Mr. Cassidy is saying he no longer wants anyone to become aware of what the Internal Revenue Service says that any person can do to legally avoid taxation. He no longer wants any intelligent individual who has been astute enough to create an estate plan for themselves, their businesses, their families. Okay, he no longer wants these individuals to utilize what's already written in the system as it relates to tax avoidance, tax deferral strategies that are already in the system that individuals who understand it can utilize. He doesn't want these people to have access to any of it, and he's calling them imitators. Hello, secured entrepreneurs. Second, we must eliminate loopholes in the tax code that serve no economic purpose beyond sheltering the riches of the financial elite while depriving the federal government of much needed revenue that would aid other Americans. Okay. So a majority of the secured entrepreneurs are very studied. We study law. We study the tax code. We study history, right? Eliminate loopholes. Again, these are things that the system already has in place for any individual who is financially astute, any individual who will think to create an estate plan and a tax plan. Okay, we have access to the loopholes that are already set in place in the tax code, like Mr. Cassidy is telling us. Okay, all right. Now, I would like to know when it is that the federal government has ever cared about people. I could really go places. Mr. Aurorah could really go places with that one. But I think that we all know, especially the secured entrepreneurs, we all know that we are accountable and responsible for what happens to us, period. So we can't depend on the government. And let me move further because I'm like, wow, Mr. Cassidy. Okay. This, in parentheses, this shortfall amounts to upward of $400 billion a year, according to some estimates. Third, we have to introduce broader changes to the tax code for an economic era where the rich accumulate vast amounts of untaxed wealth and where inequality has reached record levels. So let me just go here. He's saying we want to introduce broader changes to the tax code for an economic era where the rich accumulate vast amounts of untaxed wealth. Again, secured entrepreneurs, any individual who is astute enough to create an estate plan, who is astute enough to understand the tax law, okay, can utilize what is already set forth in the system, in the tax code, okay? We already know that a majority of the wealthiest people will not be taxed because they have an estate plan. They understand how to utilize entities. They understand what liability really means. They understand that they don't have any business, okay, having anything in their own name. They don't have any business creating taxable events, okay? And so the Internal Revenue Service tells us exactly what to do and how to do it. Okay, that is just the truth. And I'm going to address some things in the next video, because many of you are asking about putting yourselves on payroll and the ramifications of that, the pros and cons and all that stuff. I'm going to get into that. Okay, all right. Let's move on. Trump's returns, which cover the tax years 2015 through 2020 and run to thousands of pages, have added new details to a story that is by now well known. For more than 3 decades, he has flaunted his wealth while paying very little federal, bear that in mind, federal income tax, and in many years, no tax at all. That is correct. In 2017, his first year in the White House, Trump and his wife, Melania, paid $750 in federal income tax, far less than the average school teacher. It's clear that the average school teacher is lacking information. It's clear that the average school teacher is lacking information. In 2020, Trump's last year in office, he and his wife paid no federal income tax. This is what I want to share with the secured entrepreneurs. Remember, there's no charges against Donald Trump for tax evasion. There's no charges against Donald Trump for federal tax evasion. So clearly, these tax returns are legal, accurate, and abide by what is in the tax code. Hello, we all have access to it, secured entrepreneurs, okay? How did he manage this? One thing that kept down Trump's tax liabilities was the fact that while he's a natural at self-promotion and marketing, he's a bad businessman. The returns confirmed that some of his companies, particularly his chain of upscale golf resorts, suffer hefty operating losses year after year. And this offsets income from his licensing deals and other more profitable enterprises. Now, how many of you know that the Internal Revenue Service says it's legal for you to state that you had losses? It's legal for you to state that you've been operating on a loss this year, last year, the year before last, next year, you'll have a look. That's in the tax code. You can't get this. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay. What Mr. Cassidy wants to do is change that for people. Okay. To cite a recent example, in 2020, 2 golf courses that Trump owns in Scotland reported respective losses of $9.6 million and $2.6 million. That could be true. I don't know. But he's able to do it. And so is everybody else. But poor management is only part of the story. Trump also takes hefty deductions for depreciation of his real estate assets. Okay, this is getting me heated because how many of you know that's legal to do? Okay, a tactic that many other property developers also exploit. They may not exploit it, they utilize it. Hello. And he doesn't stop there. The returns show him claiming dubious charitable deductions and deporting business expenses that, in some cases, are suspiciously similar to the revenues these businesses took in raising the question of whether these were genuine business expenses. You can raise as many questions as you want. For example, in 2016, one Trump entity, DT Endeavor One LLC, an aviation company, reported gross income of $680,886 and expenses that also somehow totaled exactly $680,886. A coincidence noted by the staff of the Joint Committee on Taxation in its report on the return. So what he's saying is that he reported gross income of that amount, and he also reported expenses of that amount. So basically he paid out the income and expenses. Can that happen? Sure it can. I can't say whether the man is being truthful on that or not. What I can say is it's legal for him to state that. Okay. Did the IRS ask to see receipts for these expenses? We don't know. We do know that when the agency finally got around to auditing Trump's returns in 2019, in all their length and complexity, it initially assigned the task to a single agent. We also know that between 2010 and 2020, Congress reduced the IRS's budget by more than 20% in inflation-adjusted terms. The number of people in the agency's enforcement division fell by almost a third, and the rate at which rich taxpayers were audited dropped by more than 2/3. Rich, aggressive tax filers like Trump are playing an audit lottery, and they know they have little chance of getting caught. Okay, getting caught. Remember now, what's being placed on these returns, the Internal Revenue Service states is fair to do. Whether they're being honest about the numbers or not, is not our concern. The fact is, the Internal Revenue Service has given permission for people to take advantage of these things. Okay, the tax code is saying that this is right to do. So here it is. All right, so Stephen Rosenthal, a veteran tax lawyer who is now a senior fellow at the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center, told me, all right, the U.S. tax system relies on filers providing good faith estimates of their taxable income. Back that up. Rewind. This is a veteran tax lawyer who says that the U.S. tax system relies on filers providing good faith estimates. What is an estimate? Okay, of their taxable income. Don't get Mr. Word started. When you have bad faith actors, that puts more pressure on the system. The Internal Revenue Service needs more technical support, more lawyers to litigate cases, and more agents who understand complicated tax returns. Okay, and this is, let me just go here. This is what I always tell secured entrepreneurs, that you must know way more than any person that you hire to do any of these things for you. You all know that I am on the bandwagon with Tom Wheelwright. You all know the book, Tax-Free Wealth, okay? I tell all of the secured entrepreneurs, I shout it to the rooftops. You all know that I follow, and we follow here in the secured entrepreneur movement, the Robert Kiyosaki philosophy on tax-free wealth and how to actually go about doing that. So you cannot hire any person who is basically employed by the Internal Revenue Service, meaning that if they don't help you pay some tax, they can't make money. You need to employ individuals who understand that you are creating a tax plan, okay? Because at the end of the day, this is about your legacy. This is about what's going to go on with your children, your children's children, your children's children's children, okay? That is what this is about. So if you allow the quote unquote system to steal your wealth, to eat up your profits, and to do what? Because we're never really getting evidence of what the heaven is really going on out here. And how many times are we hearing people complain about how much a CEO makes in these companies in comparison to what the staff will actually make, and the people on the front line, like customer service representatives and things like that, how they're basically getting pennies and they are not really able to get a living wage, okay, because these are not the people with the skills that will permit them to earn higher salaries, okay. So I'm gonna leave that right there. Let's go on. As part of last year's Inflation Reduction Act, Congress took an important step toward reversing its past cuts by allocating an additional $80 billion to the Internal Revenue Service. About half of this sum will go to enforcement, particularly investigations of large, please pay attention to this, secured entrepreneurs. I might be frozen, so I'll put something there, okay, because it's going on here. Okay, something going on here. Okay, particularly investigations of large corporations and high net worth individuals like Trump. Okay, let me just say this here. Please understand, Miss Aurorah always tells you, and I'm going to address this. I'm going to address this in the next video. So let me not go there. Okay. But House GOP members, some of whom want to abolish the Internal Revenue Service entirely, have already indicated their desire to rescind the additional funding. And how many of these secured entrepreneurs know whether the additional funding has already been rescinded or not? With Democrats controlling the Senate, that proposal has no chance of becoming law. But the threat from Republicans won't end there. When the debt ceiling comes up, they could hold up the entire country to reverse the $80 billion increase. How many of the secured entrepreneurs feel like this is something that needs to go on or not? Simply because understand that this tax law has been with us for centuries. This is not new. There is nothing new being done here. Okay? The first policy priority then is to ensure that the additional resources for the Internal Revenue Service remain in place, that they get used wisely. But even a properly funded tax agency wouldn't be able to prevent unscrupulous filers from exploiting every loophole in the tax code to the absolute maximum. He keeps telling you that the loophole and every loophole is in the tax code. Mr. Cassidy. He keeps telling us, secured entrepreneurs, that everything that's being done is in the tax code. He has said no thing that these particular filers have done that is illegal. He hasn't said anything that Trump has done illegal in these. He's telling us consistently that everything is in the tax code. Okay. Experts say the biggest reason that Trump has been able to avoid paying taxes for so long is 3 huge single-year losses, which he reported in the distant past. $916 million in 1995, nearly $700 million in 2009, and $200 million in 2010. Under the existing tax law, he has been able to carry these losses forward and backward to offset his tax liabilities in other more profitable years. Stop. Under the existing tax law. Again, secured entrepreneurs. Also, I want to point out here that these numbers don't come from an individual tax return. These numbers do not come from an individual tax return. Okay, let me just say that what's being pointed out here. But Mr. Cassidy is just giving us so much juice that all of what has been done and reported is true and accurate, true and correct under the existing tax law. We are allowed to do all of what we see Mr. Trump has done in these returns for his companies, all of that, what he pointed out, because it is in existence right now, tonight, today, whatever time you're watching this video, in the tax law. And how many of the secured entrepreneurs know that tax law is the same across the board in all countries? Don't. Okay. Was this legitimate? At least in the earlier case, the Internal Revenue Service appears to have accepted Trump's huge loss carryovers, or at least did not punish him. For the 2009 tax year and some subsequent ones, the agency audited Trump's returns, and it's not clear if these audits have been resolved. Congress should investigate Trump's huge operating losses and deductions. Frank Clemente, the director of Americans for Tax Fairness, a Washington-based advocacy group, told me. Is this something unique to Trump, or is this a loophole that others exploit too, and which needs eliminating? Congress needs to find out. You know how many crooks are sitting up in Congress? OM to the G. If you take a deep look at who's in Congress, you will find that most of them have criminal histories up the yin-yang. All types of criminal histories. All types of financial crimes. I mean, this is public record. If anybody cares to start doing the investigation as Miss Aurorah has, okay? I'm like, wow. It's like a Jerry Springer show. You're only watching because you want to make sure that somebody's doing worse than you. You're only watching because you want to prove to yourself that, hey, I'm not that bad of a person, right? Okay? That's what's going on with the people, the individuals in Congress. And Mr. Aurorah can't make this stuff up. This is public information about those individuals. Okay, but we're not going to get into that in this video because I can really go somewhere. Okay. It shouldn't be left to the Internal Revenue Service to fight this out in court. I can tell you about how many states have won against the Internal Revenue Service in court. And why did they win? Because a majority of the people that they hire don't know the tax law. They don't know the tax code. So they want to come and tell me, we're auditing you. Okay, but let me pull this out right here. This is in your publication right here. Oh, well, then we got to scratch that off. Oh, you know, like once you point out to them, well, this is what you all say right here. So if you don't know that, I'm sorry, but this is what this is. Okay. Okay. That brings us to the third imperative that I mentioned up top. If we want a better and more equitable tax system, we need to update the tax code for an economy that creates huge agglomerations of wealth. Can I say that again? Huge agglomerations of wealth, which a large industry of accountants and tax lawyers seeks to keep from the tax man's grasp. Of course, progressive tax reform isn't easy. If it were, abominations like the carried interest deduction for managers of hedge funds and private equity funds, which allows these people to shelter vast earnings, would have been expunged long ago. Still, there are a number of proposals already on the table that are worth pursuing in whole or part. Cassidy, Mr. Cassidy, you are really reaching here. Reaching. Okay, I'm gonna do this last paragraph here. Reviving the effort to make wealth fund managers pay their fair share would be a start. Now you're going after wealth fund managers. Another idea that shouldn't be controversial is clamping down on the types of pass-through entities. This is why I want to stop here, because I gotta go here. Another idea that shouldn't be controversial is clamping down on the types of pass-through entities. How many of the secured entrepreneurs? I know the secured entrepreneurs know that there are 16 different types of LLCs. Those are pass-through tax entities. There are 16 different types. Okay. So he wants to clamp down on the types of pass-through entities and private partnerships that feature prominently in Trump's returns and which can be used to avoid taxes and make it difficult for outsiders, including the Internal Revenue Service, to penetrate such financial thickets. Secured entrepreneurs. For those of you who are new to the secured entrepreneur movement in this channel, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. But this is what we do here. Okay? If you're a new entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneur who just really isn't in the know, there's links below. Go down and get the Secured Entrepreneur Activation course and get on Miss Aurorah's calendar. Okay? Because we need to talk about your pass-through tax entities and how your business is really set up. And why it is, because I'm going to get into this in the next video, why it is you got all these people out here encouraging you to give your wealth away. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. Okay. If you are the entrepreneur who knows that you have to have some entities in place and you're interested in trust, well, you know, Miss Aurorah is the trust goddess. Okay. Go down in the links below and take the Trust Basics course and get on Miss Aurorah's calendar. Both courses you'll be able to get on Miss Aurorah's calendar. And we're going to talk about how you're going to set your business up so that you can be successful, all right, as it relates to this tax situation and legally avoiding taxation, taking as many, utilizing as many tax deferral strategies as you can. I actually want to thank Mr. Cassidy for this article. Okay. The Democratic Senator Ron Wyden has proposed draft legislation that limits the flexibility that these partnerships enjoy and which would make it easier for the Internal Revenue Service to audit them effectively. Effectively. That surely would be in the public interest. I don't know. I said this was going to be the last, but okay, let me go here because this one was juicy too. I'm sorry. Got to do this. On a grander scale, President Biden last year proposed a billionaire minimum income tax. We talked about this, secured entrepreneurs. Okay. We said it's not going to work, which would be tantamount to an annual wealth tax on some of the richest U.S. households. In addition to paying income tax on the income that they declare. So we're going to talk about how you declare your income. If you should be declaring your income. Because didn't Miss Aurorah share this clip with you with Elon Musk telling everyone that he has no tax to pay because he doesn't take an income. He has no income. So he personally has no tax to pay. Hello. Get on Mr. Aurorah's calendar so we can talk about how it is you're going to do just that, right? Okay. In addition to paying income tax on the income that they declare, households with a net worth of more than $100 million would be required to pay an annual levy on their unrealized capital gains. That's very dangerous. I don't know who's going to vote for that. Although Biden's proposal is less ambitious than the wealth tax plans that Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren unveiled during the 2020 Democratic primary, its enactment would represent a landmark in U.S. tax policy. How many of the secured entrepreneurs know or think? What? Comment below. Comment below. I really don't think that wealth tax is going to make it. Ms. Aurorah doesn't think that wealth tax is going to make it. I'm not even going to take it there. I'm going to do the next video because you all want to know about the pros and cons of paying yourself through your company, why you shouldn't do it, what are the reasons why you would do it, okay? let's get into that. So you all know you can find me, Miss Aurorah Dey, at AurorahDeyConsulting.com. And if you have not watched the video, which sparked this video about Donald Trump's indictment, I'm going to put it up here. Go watch that video so you can see what I'm talking about as to the emails that came in. Okay. And until next time,